Well, this is certainly not the season that we have expected to see. Oklahoma loses tonight 51 to 48, completely gets shocked in Lubbock against the Texas Tech team that a lot of people will say is just bad. And then some people that will tell you, hey, this is a Texas Tech team that is now 7-5. They're pretty good. Talk about it. I got to vent a little bit. We got to talk about this field goal that everybody else is talking about because if you guys were holding on and waiting for me, it's because I had to sit back for a second and watch that and make sure I saw what I saw on the field goal. But before you do that, please go ahead, hit the like and the subscribe button. During a depressing, disappointing season like this, I need y'all to give me that like and that subscribe so that I have something at least to excite me a little bit. Okay. So I guess we can start with the positives. And the positive is that the two receivers that are probably leaving us this season had a baller game tonight. They really did. Marvin Mims had 5 receptions for 162 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Theo East, the guy we've talked about who might hit the portal, man, he had himself a interview, I guess, tonight. Portal, 3 receptions, 123 yards, 1 touchdown. Where the hell has that been all season? Seriously, where has that been all season? Why hasn't Theo East been able to do that all year? Why hasn't Dylan Gabriel been able to hit them multiple times throughout the game? I just see Dylan Gabriel hitting the receivers, and I'm like, come on, man! Like, we couldn't have been that accurate, or at least that in touch with our receivers all season, but I guess not. So, Dylan Gabriel, 149 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. You go 28 to 40. Ultimately, like if you gave somebody a blind look at just the box score and didn't give them any insight to the overall score, stats, you would have won this game. You really would have. You really would have thought Oklahoma would have won this game because who puts up what did we put up? 672 yards of total offense and loses a football game. Has that ever happened before? If any of you guys are in the chat, go ahead and look that one up because I'm curious to see if anybody's ever lost a game outside of that Texas Tech Oklahoma game in 2016 where they had 672 yards total offense and lost the damn game. I'm at a loss for words. And you know what? I'm actually not going to put the blame on the defense today. I don't think it's fair to put the blame on the defense, at least for the past 3 weeks of what's been going on. And here's why. Because ultimately, what's happening is offense is out there. The offense is out there going through quick plays and it's causing the offense to I'm sorry, I'm completely wording this wrong. The offense is having quick drives. And when the offense has those quick drives and the defense has to keep going back out there, they don't have any time for rest. So yeah, eventually they're going to start progressively looking worse and worse and worse through the game because you're putting them out there too much. They're not getting time to sit on the sideline. It's like, come on, guys, give them like a couple downs to or a couple first downs to at least get a breather. They're not even getting a breather. They get over to the sideline. They maybe talk about one play, and then all of a sudden they're back out there again. And that's not winning football. It's great that we can go score, but at some point or another, you have to be able to slow it down and allow your defense to be able to get a rest. And now here's the other thing. I'm also not going to harp on Levy too much about this because this is the same you know what that Lincoln Riley did. It really is. Lincoln Riley did the same thing. The only difference is Lincoln Riley knew he could do it every time. Jeff Lebby can't do it every time. So we're not happy with Lebby because Lebby can't replicate the success every single drive as Lincoln Riley up to last year could replicate the success every single drive. That's the difference. There's really no difference between what Jeff Lebby does and what Lincoln Riley does in an offense outside of Lincoln tells us quarterbacks where to throw the ball, and Lebby makes his quarterbacks go through the progressions. That's really, that's really about it. Like there's not too much of a difference between them. Lincoln Riley's just better at executing. But Lincoln Riley put the defense in just as bad of a hole as we have been putting the defense. I mean, really, quite frankly, through the whole season. But you know what? Let's look at this bright side. Let's look at the bright side right here. Texas fans have been saying all season to us, 49-0, 49-0. In our worst season in, what's it been, 23, 24 years? Maybe longer? In our worst season in the past 25 years, 6-6, we got to go to a bowl game. Texas didn't get to do that in their worst season. So I guess we can hang that over them. Even in our worst season, we're better than Texas. So, and we're going to get to a bowl, go to a bowl game. And you know what? I have no doubt in my mind that going to a bowl game and having the extra practices, getting some of these guys to correct some of these mistakes, having more time without having the games following up every Saturday, I think they'll be prepared for the bowl game, be ready to play. Hank and Jimmy, y'all calling me out over here? Here's the deal. We can't get rid of Lebby, guys. I know y'all don't like Lebby, and I know you want to fire Lebby, but we can't get rid of Lebby. Because at the end of the day, players still want to come play for Lebby. But we do need to – Brent Venables needs to be a CEO or a coach here, and he needs to actually tell Lebby that he needs to slow it down. Carl, I disagree with you on this one. I don't think the defense lost us this game. I think it was the offense going out there and scoring too quickly. Because at the end of the day, I mean, that's what's killed us for the past 7-8 years is the offense scores too quickly and the defense has to go out there and they get tired. We want Lebby to adjust to his current players. Hank, I'm going to have to need you to elaborate on this one a little more. Because unless you're saying you need Gabriel to adjust to his current players, because I don't think Gabriel is 100% adjusted to the receivers and the running backs that he has out there. Hey, so we can talk about this because we were late starting because I actually watched this a couple times. And if we need to, I can screen share over to my YouTube TV and we can watch it together. But what I think happened, and if you watch it after I say this, you'll see it. What I think happened is, you know, you have your field goals here, right? So here's the right post. I think the ball went like this and it curved in, which made it look like it went in. I don't think it actually went through this way. I think it went through through the backside, if that makes sense. I might be wrong, but we don't have another camera angle as of right now. And from that camera angle, that's what it looks like. So maybe go back and watch it again real quick and look at it from that point of view, and I think you'll see it. Because I don't think the Texas Tech fans that were behind the field goal would have been cheering that we would have missed it if we would have really have made it. So, but yes, it at the same time, it does not look good. And honestly, I hope that was really a missed field goal and they didn't get it wrong, because I don't know how you correct something like that, because an apology ain't gonna cut it in this one. So listen, I think Texas Tech was just a little more hungry in this game, guys. I really do. I really think Texas Tech was more hungry in this game. We saw people in Oklahoma State fans tweeting out about how they're tired of Oklahoma being their Super Bowl or whatever, blah, 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 blah. No, like we are, like in the Big 12, Oklahoma is everybody's Super Bowl. And I mean, it's a night game, crazy Texas Tech atmosphere. I didn't like this. I didn't like having to play at 6:30. I was really hoping this would be like a 2:30, 11 o'clock game, just because we know what Texas Tech has to give us every year, especially at night. I mean, this was not a good atmosphere for Oklahoma to be playing. And it's not a good atmosphere for anybody. I mean, this is the same atmosphere that the #1 Texas team in the country lost to Texas Tech back in 2008. If you guys remember that, when Michael Crabtree caught that ball, and the rest is history. But which actually, congratulations to Michael Crabtree. He was being inducted into the Hall of Fame, so he was there tonight, getting honored at Texas Tech. So that was really cool to see him getting honored for that. But I mean, let's talk about how Oklahoma always makes other quarterbacks look like Heisman winners, because you would have looked at this game and thought Tyler Show, I hope I'm saying his last name right, is a Heisman Trophy winner. 436 total yards, 2 touchdowns, 8.7 yard average with 1 interception. I've never even heard of this kid really up until today. I've heard of the Donovan Smith kid and the other guy. I can't think of his name, but I've never heard of this Tyler Show kid. Oh, hey, what's going on, Ty?
Oh man, how you doing?
I'm trying to keep everybody at bay here about this field goal that they think we missed, but I went back and watched it a couple times, and I don't think we missed it, or I don't think we made it. I think we missed it. It looks like it went around the back of the goalpost.
So I had Denzel was over. Denzel, my old roommate, we were all over, and we've been watching the games all day long. And so we're all kicking it, talking, normal when a group of friends get together and watch the game. And I watched the kick go up. Now, granted, we got one TV on the OU Texas Tech game. We got one TV on a different game, and then we got my laptop on a different game. So there's a whole lot going on. And when the kick goes up, I just look real quick and I'm like, oh, that's good. So I turned to Denzel to keep talking. And all of a sudden, Denzel shoots up and he's like, the kick's no good. And I'm sitting there like, wait, that's not possible. I just watched. It wild, man. I'm really, really excited to hear your take on it all.
Yeah, I mean, I sit here and I'm telling everybody here, don't blame the defense. I actually think the defense played really well, and I thought the defense has played really well in the second half of the season. It's mainly just been the offense that's really
They've had
killing
their
the
strides,
defense.
no doubt about it.
Yeah, like but then also I'm telling everybody we can't get mad at Lebby, because this is the same thing that Lincoln Riley did. The difference is Lincoln Riley was able to execute on it a little bit better on the offensive side of the ball. That's really the only difference. Lincoln Riley could go down there, score in a flash too, but he was able to execute it on it every single time.
And you
Lebby's not.
also have to remember Lincoln Riley had a long-standing relationship with the entirety of that team, right? Even when Lincoln Riley came in, he was already in the building. So he had this understanding of all of the ins and outs of every single player. That's something this staff is still building. So that definitely is something as well.
Yeah. So I mean, really, at the end of the day, I don't think there's too much really to harp on here. I mean, I think players played really well. I mean, I said if you look at the box score and you just give somebody the box score and you don't give them any details to the team stats or the score of the game, you would have thought, oh, you would have won this game by the box score. There's no way that you would have thought, oh, you would have lost this game by looking at the box score.
There is something that does stand out to me on the box score. And it's something that I've been begging for out of Oklahoma since before the Nebraska game. Peep that time of possession, PG.
Well, yeah, that's 32 minutes compared to the 27 minutes.
And
that we had.
that hasn't been as bad as some of the other games we've seen. I've seen games this year, man, where Oklahoma has lost the time of possession battle handedly, but they've gotten just as many yards as the other team. They've been right there at the end of the game. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's really tough for me to be super critical of this defense right now whenever the offense can score in a minute, but they can also 3 and out in a minute, and then the defense is right back on the field. Oh, your defense gets you a good stop, offense 3 and out, boom. It's tough for me to put that on a defense when they're on the field so much. That's rough.
Yeah, and I mean, there's really. Here's the deal. I just don't think this isn't something that you can't that you can fix in a season.
No,
it's not.
No.
This is an off-season fix type of thing. Lebby's got to go back and look at his playbook, which I was hearing some guys talk about it on the Twitter space during halftime, and it was the same problem we had with Lincoln Riley, but it's almost like when these guys that run high-powered offenses like this get away from their play sheet, it's almost like everything falls apart.
And I've told you, man, I'm doing that deep dive into Oklahoma's offense, and I really tomorrow will probably be the day where I can make a lot of headway in it. And really, this next week is I can make a lot of progress in it. I'm super interested in diving deep into y'all's first down play calling because it seems to me that if there's not a positive play yielded on first down, it's almost like panic mode. And you start playing outside of the realms of what it is Oklahoma does, at least with Levy, to be successful. But one of the things that you hinted at, and then I want to pass it back to you real quick, but I just want to quickly get this out because Denzel, PJ, and I, we were all talking about this watching the game. Whenever you go from we'll talk defense because Kalen Pendleton, they had a comment, and you're 100% right, Kalen. It's a habit to blame the defense. It's been the weakest for years, and you're certainly not wrong. But one of the things we have to remember, Grinch's scheme was largely peeling everything back and simplifying it, taking the defense down to its roots, right? Like you have your stunts, all of that is to free up space. It makes sense. That's basically the total opposite of the Brent Venables philosophy. Brent Venables philosophy, super scheme heavy, super convoluted, super cerebral. And that's why earlier in the year you saw your linebackers getting picked on. Teams were able to really attack your linebackers with RPOs, with play action, because your linebackers were learning. Now, during the course of the season, to your point, Chris has pointed this out, Jay has pointed this out, Indy has pointed this out. I think Deshaun White is a prime example because we can see the growth in him, right, at that cheetah position all year. But by extension, we can see the growth in the defense. I bring all this to your attention because it completely highlights the point you just made, PG, that this isn't something we can fix in a year. We being Oklahoma, it's not something Oklahoma can fix in a year. It's something that it's going to take a while, but there has to be this understanding of, hey, there is a plan in action, and it's some things are left to be desired right now. But at the end of the day, you have seen some growth defensively. I'm just super interested offensively. What's your thoughts whenever you're watching this Oklahoma offense, man? What's your first thought problem, right? If you're identifying that problem, what comes to mind?
You know, a lot of it is I think fixable over time, quarterback play, getting the ball where it needs to be. But it's almost not necessarily, I think, getting the ball where it needs to be from the quarterback standpoint. It almost feels like the wide receiver coaching has disappeared.
Well, it literally has.
Because the wide receivers are not in the correct spots.
But your wide receiver coach has disappeared. I mean, think about the situation you had at your wide receiver coach this year.
No, that's true. No, that's true. But you still have LaDainian Washington, who I would have thought would have at least been able to pick up the slack. But the problem is you watch this game and you watch, Dillon Gabriel missing some of these passes, and it's not on Dillon Gabriel. A lot of these are not on Dillon Gabriel. It's just because here's the thing. When Dillon Gabriel puts the ball in a specific spot and the receivers are not in that area, that tells me the receivers didn't run the right route. And I'm not a football guy.
But I it's just so tough, man. Like, I don't know. I'd really be interested in sitting down with someone who's in the Oklahoma offense and really kind of picking their brain as to if there's any sort of route modifications, what sort of hot routes Levy has employed, if any. I know hot routes, it's kind of an in thing right now in college football, and it makes sense, but it's so difficult. I mean, and I think people that have listened to my channel, you've heard me rant about it. Bill O'Brien, if you study him and like what he brings to the table in terms of X's and O's, one of the things that makes Bill O'Brien, or what made him a brilliant play caller at the NFL level, guys, notice I'm being very specific, at the NFL level, he ran those option routes and hot routes with Tom Brady. And Tom Brady, being the cerebral quarterback he is, right? Like, he's able to read a defense. The wide receivers were able to read the defense. But the reason why I bring this up is if Levy's implementing hot routes, then you're asking the wide receiver to have the same exact read as the quarterback. What I mean when I say that is, let's say that the wide receiver lines up and the corner is playing inside technique, right? Like he's basically telling you, you're not going to have the inside. If your called route is a slant, then the hot route might be an out route, right? To take advantage of the corner giving you outside leverage, basically cutting off the inside. You'd have to hope that the wide receiver and quarterback identified that at the line of scrimmage. And if Levy is employing that, then it makes some sense to me that why this early there's some struggles with the option routes because they are tough. I don't know that that's being employed. I don't. But it is something that is really making the rounds, and it's something that's been in college football, but it's really making the rounds right now. It's definitely in.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is, and I get we're gonna get the 10 or 11 extra practices for the bowl game, but I don't know if we're gonna see an improvement or not with those 10 extra practices because you're not gonna be backed up with a game that week. So maybe the guys are getting more rest,
Yeah.
maybe have a little bit more time to watch film and understand it rather than just being on the field. But I think this is going to be more of an off-season type of thing. And quite honestly, again, I think this comes down to what we've talked about so many times, but also on the offensive side, personnel. I think there's just the wrong personnel in here for what Levy's trying to do on the offensive side of the ball. I think, some point or another, this has got to take time to get rid of the old regime's guys that are, not going to be able to adapt to the new way that we want to play.
It's super interesting. The bowl game is going to be big for y'all. One thing that I mean, this is just the nerd in me. I don't know that it's going to be indicative of long-term yields for Oklahoma, but seeing Brent Venables have 2-3 weeks to scheme for one opponent, like count me in for that. I mean, seriously, I think that's going to be a lot of fun because think about it, PG. This is going to be super interesting, and I know you laugh, but whenever Brent Venables got to Oklahoma, he understood the team in the sense of he had them practicing, but now he's actually seen this team in live action. You're never going to understand what you have in a team through practice. You're never going to understand what you really have until Saturdays come and the game starts. Now Brent Venables has a much greater understanding, and for the first time since the offseason, he's going to have an extended period of time to prepare for one team. I know off or bye weeks are a thing, but this is a bye week on steroids. What does he put together? Like, I'm really interested in that. I think that's going to be fascinating to watch.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess the question is though, during the bowl game season, do you see Oklahoma bring in a wide receiver coach to and bring Damian Washington back down to a analyst role? Because I mean, again, we talked about it just a minute ago. That is really, I think, one of the biggest issues on the offensive side of the ball is not having a receiver coach. And, do you do that and do you try to go ahead and get a head start on that? And, that's the other thing too, is I think that's part of our problem right now with the receivers is we don't have a receiver coach. And so we're losing those recruits on the recruiting trail because they don't know what the long-term relationship is going to look like there in that room. And so does Brent Venables, does that need to be the first thing he does starting Monday is going out there and finding a receiver coach, whether that's Malcolm Kelly or somebody?
Yeah, or I mean, even if it's retaining LaDainian Washington, right? I mean, right now, I think you make a really interesting point. Even though you have Washington there, there's kind of this uncertainty as to whether he's going to remain the guy. And in your credit, when you look at recruiting, those things matter. That continuity at the wide receiver coach, like these wide receivers, they want to know who am I going to be working with. So I completely agree. The wide receiver coach is something that has got to be addressed. Um, who you get, I think, is really up to you. There are several great options. I know Kelly is one that y'all would love. But as far as I know, Matt says like retaining Mims is going to be a big emphasis. I don't know that y'all are going to be able to retain Mims.
I don't think we're going to be able to give him enough money. Now, I mean, I was talking to a specific OU football player that was not able to go to the game because, they don't take everybody
Yes.
when they travel on the road like this. And I was talking to one of them. And we were actually talking about Eric Gray specifically, talking about how if he does not go, like, if he doesn't get a draft grade of like first or second round, pretty much to guarantee that he's going to go within the first three, probably he should stay. We're talking about the same thing with Mims. Like if Mims doesn't get that guarantee that he's going in the first 3 rounds, he probably should stay to try and get that guarantee.
I can agree with the first 3 rounds. I think that's completely
because
logical.
You could come back to the team and say, hey, or you could come back to your NIL donors and say, hey, like if you can give me this much, I'll stay. But basically asking for $1 million or $2 million, saying, hey, I'll stay another year if you give me this much so that I can improve my draft stock and go later. And they would probably give you that. Now, but if you're going to go in the first 3 rounds, then at that point you probably should go. But if you're not going to go in the first 3 rounds, you probably should stay.
Yeah, I think Eric Gray will probably go. Whether he gets a first round grade or not, I don't know. And that's not anything to do with Eric Gray. We just know how the running back position is valued in the current landscape of the NFL. They'll find any excuse not to take a guy in the first round. But I certainly think he's going to get a high enough draft grade. I mean, you just think about the type of running back Eric Gray is, and the NFL game absolutely loves those type of running backs. Hank in the comments says, Ty, I'm just saying Gray is so much like Gibbs. Yes and no. I completely understand where you say that. And it's this stylistic type of running back. And this is what I was meaning, Hank. This is exactly what I was talking about when Eric Gray got there last year. The way he plays the position makes sense for the style of offense Oklahoma wants to run. I know that putting on the weight was probably the best thing for him, but I've always had a ton of faith in his ability. I just think he fit what Oklahoma wanted to do. Did Bama lose by 40? Thank God, no. Oh my gosh. And y'all should have seen me the first 5 minutes of that game when we had the back-to-back penalties and let Auburn go down there and score. Oh, I was hot. Whew.
Well, since someone brought it up, you want to talk about this Michigan-Ohio State game?
Man, what a matchup. And here's the thing. I got to eat some crow on this, and I have no problem in doing so. I'll tell you exactly where I was wrong because I was 100% wrong in my outcome of the game. It's interesting. We'd talked about this yesterday, and when I looked at Ohio State versus Michigan, the X factor in this game to me was the quarterback play. And from the outside looking in, when I looked at it, I was like, okay, Michigan is rated as a top 3 defense in college football. They haven't played a super high powered offense. So we're going to see exactly who they are this weekend. Ohio State's rated as a top defense. Same argument can be made for Ohio State's defense. They haven't played a really high powered offense. We're going to learn more about them. But when I looked at this game and the offenses, I think everybody would have had to agree on the outside. If you were betting on a quarterback to have that game, JJ McCarthy or CJ Stroud, I think CJ Stroud was the logical answer. Why? Because JJ McCarthy has been good all year, but he hasn't necessarily been the reason Michigan has won these games. That vicious rushing attack has been the reason. That unbelievable trench play that Michigan has, both defensively and offensively, has been the reason. Guys, I can't tell you how impressed I am with Michigan, where Corum is in for, what was he in, 1 or 2 plays? He did that one cut. Yeah, 2 plays. He did that one cut and instantly looked at Harbaugh and shook his head. Donovan Edwards was banged up as well. He wasn't 100%. And J.J. McCarthy went out there and played big boy football. PG, I was in the group chat, and when the game started, you saw the tone of my messages start changing over the course of that game. What did it start off with? Oh, it's super interesting that Ohio 1 is in this cover 1 man formation. They are just straight out saying they don't respect McCarthy's ability to test them throwing the football. They're going to sell out to stop the run, and we're not going to test you. By the 3rd and 4th quarter, I'm sending paragraphs in our group text asking the coach in the group text, why the hell are they still in a cover 1 when McCarthy is beating it? Like, they've already scored 31 points. It's not working. What are we doing here? Hats off to Michigan. Hats off to McCarthy. I was 100% wrong. I thought Ohio State would win, especially with the running backs being limited for Michigan. And they came out there and played a hell of a game. I mean, I was so impressed with that Michigan team. Hats off to them.
Yeah, and I tried to tell y'all in the group chat.
You did. No, you were the only one.
McCarthy's coming out party today.
Yeah, you were the one. And I was like, yeah, he's a very talented prospect. You go back coming out of IMG, he had some big games out of IMG, but I mean, you just look at the quarterback numbers and they speak for themselves. CJ Stroud has been that guy. And I mean, what more can you say, man? Hats off to Michigan. Hats off to Jim Harbaugh. And, you know, something that I was talking about on Drew's podcast with Chris Plink when he was on there. One of the things that doesn't get talked about with Michigan is Jim Harbaugh publicly flirted with the NFL this year. Think about how wild this is, guys. Like, really conceptualize this real quick. Think about this. Michigan has been owned by Ohio State over recent history, right? Harbaugh gets there, and he's done well, but it's well to a point up until last year. Last year comes, they beat Ohio State. They get over that hill, and then they make the college football playoffs. 2 massive hills Michigan climbed last year. It was after last season that he climbed those 2 hills that he flirted with the NFL in front of his team. And this is the same team that has responded. They're now undefeated, and they just beat Ohio State for the 2nd straight year, but this time at the Horseshoe. Hey, hats off to Harbaugh. That's impressive.
Yeah, and the thing is, Harbaugh doesn't have, and I talked about this in my video earlier today, Harbaugh does not have historically top 10 classes. He does not have the talent that Ohio State has. Harbaugh's just a good developer, but there were so many questions coming into this season about whether Harbaugh was going to be able to continue to get the job done at Michigan, since he was looking at going back to the NFL, potentially taking that Vikings job and everything else. I thought this was going to be a hot mess of a season for Michigan, even though I still picked them to be in the Final Four. I thought we were going to be running, but Michigan is just consistent, and they're trying to, continue to go the route where they can beat you up, but then beat you on big plays. And they're going out there and trying to get good skill players throughout the portal and throughout the recruiting classes. And you're starting to see them do it for 2024 and 2025. So I'm excited to see if Michigan can continue to keep this up as the years go on, because if they can continue to keep this up, Michigan could be a brutal force to be reckoned with in college football.
Yeah, 100% agree. It's going to be super, super interesting to see how they recruit as well. Ohio State had a lot of big-time visitors out there today. It's going to be really interesting to see how Michigan can finish out this class, because if they start getting in that talent, oh my Lord.
Michigan had a cornerback commit to him on the field today, and they had T.A. Cunningham there today. So, probably, look at that. I don't know. It was just a good game. I want to shift back to this because someone up here, was it Matt that was talking about it? Matt was talking about guys that could potentially come back. I don't think Harrison's going pro. Chris Murray can't come back. He doesn't have an eligible year. I think Andrew Rame and Wanye are the only 2 that could potentially come back, but I don't see Wanye coming back. I see Wanye risking it for the biscuit in the NFL. So you have Cade Matower. He could return, which he probably will.
I think he'll probably need to.
And then Andrew Rame probably needs to return too. Wanye,
yeah,
I don't know what his draft stock will be, but he might get a high enough grade to say, hey, I'm going.
One thing y'all got to remember with Wanye, I know that the film isn't exactly where you'd want it to be. He's someone whose talent is very highly valued, and I think scouts will boost
he's just
draft
a big
value.
dude. He's just a big dude. So we talked about wide receiver coaches and who OU should go out there and get. I know OU fans, a lot of them are going to say Malcolm Kelly. I've seen some D.D. Westbrooks in the comments. I've heard Ryan Broyles before. Obviously, those are all OU guys. Who do you think OU could realistically go out there and get, or do you think they should go try to steal somebody else's wide receiver coach? Because you look at what a Brian Hartline is doing at Ohio State, and you need to get yourself somebody like that. And I'm not saying you can go get Brian Hartline because he's only making, I think, $600,000 a year. And I think you'd have to pay him probably $1 million or $1.5 million to leave Ohio State. And then Ohio State might be willing to match that. But
I think they absolutely would be willing to match that. You look at the recruiting he does for them, and it's not just wide receivers.
Yeah, he does it for the quarterback position too.
Quarterback? It's not, bro. He is really starting to flex his muscle. In terms of recruiting, that's something interesting to note. Look, I think it's one of those things where at the wide receiver position, you just need someone who's going to fit with what Levy wants to do. Right now, that's the most important thing. So who that is, I'm not quite sure. But they just have to have a symbiotic relationship with Jeff Levy. because Lebby has his style of offense, and you got to commit to it. Everything has to be in sync. I think right now that's what's really hurting, is because I think that this offense is a bit more involved than a lot of people realize, and not having a full-time wide receivers coach in a year where you're transitioning to a new offense. I mean, I think the effects speak for themselves.
Yeah. So who was the wide receiver coach at LSU in 2019 when they won that national championship? Was that Joe Brady?
I'm
Or
not sure. He wasn't the wide receiver coach. He was the passing game coordinator, but he was the guy putting together all those layering concepts that the LSU was running. And guys, if you want to see a thing of beauty, just go watch that 2019 LSU season and just chart where all the wide receivers are. And that's what I mean when I say layering concepts. How are you layering your routes to where they're all going to play off of each other? The thing that drives me up a wall, I mean, absolutely drives me up a wall about Bill O'Brien, is that we will watch Alabama run a play with 4 wide receivers, and it'll be the outside guys will go up, out, and the inside slot guys will go up and out, and there'll be 4 yards of separation between 2 wide receivers on the field. And it's like you've congested the entirety of the defense around your playmakers. Why? There's no space for Bryce to work. What are we doing? And it kills me. It absolutely kills me. But that's the type of things that, like, your passing game coordinators can really help, and to a point, your wide receiver coaches. But that's why I really am interested in knowing: are y'all running hot routes? Are y'all running option routes? Like, what is the depth of your offense? Who's the Bama wide receiving coach? Holloman Wiggins.
Well, I kind of have an idea of who OU needs to go out there and get, and it's going to be a guy that was out there at Clemson with Brent Venables, and it's going to be Jeff Scott. He recently got fired at USF,
That'd
so
be a
he's
great
out on the
addition.
market. He's a guy that brought in the 5-star quarterback DJ Uiagalelei there. He brought in 5-star offensive linemen, running backs. He brought in T. Higgins up there at Clemson. So he was able to go out there and recruit at a high level, and he was able to go out there and develop these guys to go. Justin Ross, I don't know if you remember him. He went there as well. He was able to go out there and develop these guys to go be in the NFL. So that potentially could be an option. And then you just pay him a chunk of money, let him sit your wide receiver coach. And if Lebby ever gets a job and you need an offensive coordinator, you can bump Jeff Scott up to that offensive coordinator position.
True. Very true.
Because at some point or another, you're going to have to start stashing good coaches as well.
Scott's going to be a very highly sought after name this offseason. Very highly
It's going to be
sought
a Bama,
after.
Texas A&M recruiting war is what it's going to be.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Bama make a move at Jeff Scott. At all. But y'all know my thought process on this. I pretty much well told y'all the position coaches and stuff I, without any knowledge, believe will be available at Alabama.
Y'all are going to have Scott Frost, so.
God bless America. Well, you know what's ironic? We joke about that. You know what Scott Frost was known for?
Wide receivers?
A lot of that layering concepts he brought to the table as well in his wide receiver formations. Yeah, ironically speaking, yeah. Coach, he is that guy. So, Hank, interesting thing about Joe Brady, and I don't know if it's still the case. Jantz would be the one to ask. I think Jantz probably has had a lot more access to Joe Brady, because I think Joe Brady, wasn't he with the Bills for a bit?
No, Joe Brady was with the Panthers.
Gotcha.
I think he might have been with the Bills, but I know he was with the Panthers. He was there with.
I knew he was with the Panthers, but for some reason I thought he was also with the Bills for a bit.
Maybe he was. Let me look it up. Maybe he was.
But yeah, I just know there was a lot of reports that he didn't much care for recruiting, which, I mean, yeah, if you're in college, you gotta love recruiting.
Oh yeah, he is right now. He's with the Bills. He's the
that's why
football coach. He's a quarterback coach for the Bills.
that's Jantz was the one telling me. Jantz has got that access to the Bills. He works with them now, or he works covering the team.
So what do you think about Mickey Joseph out there? So now that Nebraska's finally hired their head coach, I know that the players and Malachi Coleman and some of those people have expressed that they want to retain Mickey Joseph.
I'll
But
put it like
especially
this:
with some of the
Auburn
places
and
that are
Nebraska.
available, you would think he's going to be a coach that's going to be looked at, especially as a coordinator position.
Yeah, I will say this though: Auburn and Nebraska. Nebraska, you better do whatever you can to retain Mickey Williams. Auburn, y'all better do whatever the hell you can to retain Cadillac Williams.
Oh my gosh, dude! He's he's going to be good. But there's still a lot of coaching positions that need to be filled this year, so some of those guys could get head coaching jobs.
Hank, yeah, I know. Bull and I haven't talked to Bull in a minute. I need to reach out to him. But we were on a podcast not too long ago. And yeah,
Matt, I get the Mickey thing. I don't necessarily think Mickey's going to be the best fit here at Oklahoma. He's got good Nebraska roots, but I quite honestly, if I'm Oklahoma, I'm going out there and getting a wide receiver coach or another offensive coordinator of some sorts that has either deep Texas roots that can recruit really well in the state of Texas or can go out to Florida or Georgia. Because right now, a lot of your star wide receivers are coming out of Florida and Georgia or Florida and Texas.
you want to talk about wide receiver play? The wide receivers coming out of the state of Florida, it's just dumb.
So
It's
actually, one of the I was looking at this the other day, and we've talked about what I think about the 24 class for the Oklahoma Sooners and who I think is going to commit and how I think that class is going to finish out. Looking at the 2024 wide receivers and who's at the top of that position rankings, I've been very vocal. I think Oklahoma has a shot to land at least one of the top 3 wide receivers, whether that's in Jeremiah Smith, who is from Opelika, Florida, or you have Micah Hudson from Temple, Texas, or Ryan Wingo from Missouri, all states where OU has historically recruited wide receivers very well. And so,
true.
No, I mean, the number 1 wide receivers this next year is from Florida. And then you scroll down, and the number 6th wide receiver is from Florida as well. So Florida definitely has some talent out there. But again, I feel like if you can get yourself a wide receiver coach that has some deep roots in the Florida area, has those relationships, or has a roots area from Texas, I think that is what sets you up the best way for success to be able to at least recruit some of those wide receivers out there.
Yeah, wide receiver is going to be really interesting because I don't even know, like, Bama's team to watch this year. What do they do? Do they move on, try and find a new wide receiver coach? I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I think Bama's going to make several moves. I would expect to see several moves out of Alabama, but Oklahoma. Matt asked the question: has Washington done a bad job to lose the job?
I don't think he's done a bad job, but I don't think he's done a good enough job to keep it. I think you keep Washington, but I don't think you keep him as a wide receiver coach. You just put him back at the analyst role.
I'll ask you this right here, Matt. How do you feel about y'all's drops this year? Because if you feel like that's been a problem, then I hate to be the jerk of the situation, but then no. If you look at the situation and you tell yourself like, oh man, drops have been a killer on our offense, then no, I would definitely go in a different direction. Because guess what? For the second year in a row, as much as I personally am a really big Holloman Wiggins fans, I really like Holloman Wiggins at Alabama. This is really the third year in a row drops have killed Alabama. That's on the wide receiver coach. Like at a certain point, you mean to tell me all these dudes got Division I college football and then forgot how to catch a football? Nah. No. Not one. And I'm talking about Alabama right now, not Oklahoma. But I think it can apply to Oklahoma as well. And this is my point, Matt. It's not just like Marvin Mims is dropping passes. Farouk's dropped passes. I mean, everybody. You look at Alabama, the whole receiving corps is dropping passes. They all got to D1 for a reason. They can play football. At some level, I think, and this is only my personal opinion, I think that has to go to the wide receiver coach at some position. And that's why Holloman Wiggins is a guy I look at Alabama and I'm like, are the drops on players? How's it on coaching? Well, I mean, you're right. Look, at the end of the day, it is on the players to execute. But if I'm watching Oklahoma's offense, right, and I'm looking and I see, okay, Marvin Mims is someone who is talked about as one of the top wide receivers. Then you have this guy who's good. oh, good wide receiver, this guy, and everybody's experiencing drops, that's a thing. And Big Smash, we can say that, but we're at the end of the season. If they haven't gotten used to the way the ball spent after spring, after fall, and after now, that's an indictment. That's not a good thing. That's an indictment if it's taken that long to get used to how the ball spins. If it's taken your wide receivers that long, a whole year to get used to a ball spin, you got bigger problems.
Again, and it comes back down to the wide receiver coaching, and LaDainian Washington's been in that wide receiver room for as long as anybody.
And so I'm not here. I'm not trying to be the guy being like, hey, it's this guy's problem, because Matt, he's not the one on the field dropping the pass. It's not LaDainian Washington dropping the pass. It's just I don't have an answer for watching an entire team have the same issue.
Yeah,
it's not relegated to one
Barnes
person.
had a huge drop tonight. Yeah, remember that? Remember he dropped it in the middle of the field, would have been a wide open touchdown.
Yeah. It's the same thing with Bama, man. It'd be much easier for me to be like, oh, if it's this one player, this guy is having a drop problem. But the second where I look at all of Alabama and I can't bet on anybody to make consistent catches, I have to look at the wide receiver coach. And, I think I can use Alabama here, and it applies because I think it's a similar situation. And Matt, you are right. And Smash, you're right. The ball does spin differently. And if this was game 1 or game 2, I'd be perfectly on board with like, hey, the ball's spinning differently earlier in the year. It's the last regular season game of the season. They've been catching this ball all year.
Yeah. And it's not like they were catching balls from Bevel or any of the other quarterbacks. Because
and it's not even like they will let Bevel throw the damn ball.
That's why did you see what I put in the group chat about Bevel coming in?
Why even bring Bevel in if you're just going to line him up at the why not just bring in another blocker and really commit to a power wildcat?
Yeah, or it's the final game of the season. Why can't you just put Evers in?
Well, I completely agree with that. No doubt about it. My mind is like, hey guys, if we're going to go with the wildcat, I'm not bringing in a quarterback. I'm genuinely bringing in an extra offensive lineman. We're going to run I formation. I'm going to stack the box with beef, and I'm going to run it straight down your throat. And if you want to man up and stop me, I'm going to make it hurt. But just know the one play my quarterback's not in here, I'm thumping. I'm going to make it hurt. I promise you, I'm going to make it hurt. You're going to feel this play. You're not going to want this third down.
So, I know everybody likes to rip on Ted Roof, and I'm just going to say this, and I'm going to leave it here at this. Ty, if you know what I'm talking about, you're going to get where I'm going with this. If at the beginning of the next season, if you guys expect Ted Roof to still be or to not be on this team, you guys are going to be very disappointed, because there might be some other defensive guys that are not on this team, and I'm just going to leave it there.
That's funny. The drops are on Ted Roof. I like that. That's funny, hot.
Yeah. And Matt, I saw your comment about Brandon Harper, and, we're definitely going to get him on, talk to him soon, but, I don't know if that's an option right now to commit a scholarship to, with all of the people that are going to be hitting the transfer portal and still having Micah Tees and guys like that and Jaden Greathouse that have not signed to a team, right? National Signing Day is still not hit, so they could still be available to hit. The one thing I think everybody's hitting about Micah Tees is like we could take the wide receiver, and we really wanted him for, our DB position, but now it gives us a reason to go out there and at least get him at the receiver position, get him on the team, and then, maybe over the next year or two, shift him back to the defensive side of the ball, which is what we did with DJ Graham. So that's kind of the point. There's a lot more. Yes, Brandon has amazing stats. I mean, when you go look at what he's done through high school, like, no doubt that the kid is talented. However, though, he is playing at Noble High School. So let's keep that in mind. When you play at smaller high school levels, you're talented, you're usually going to be able to do better, right? Then you come to play it with the bigger dogs, and then all of a sudden your statistics don't look as great as what they were when you were playing at the smaller schools. So just keep that in mind, that just because he's got great stats doesn't mean that that's what he can do here at Oklahoma. I think he could be talented. I just don't know if that's somebody. Maybe we give him a PWO, not necessarily a scholarship right away.
I love Smash's comment right here. If Lebby gets fired, Jackson Arnold is gone. Guys, I know this isn't going to be popular. Let me get on a soapbox real quick, right? Because I'm going to say something to kind of lecture at Oklahoma fans, but to kind of put things in perspective for y'all, right? Because I want to let y'all know something. Because let's be honest here, I'm the outsider looking in. Oklahoma, y'all are spoiled. Now, am I saying that excuses the team not playing up to the level? No. Not my contention at all. I'm not saying your complaints aren't reasonably justified. No doubt about that. No doubt about that. You have had a level of success. How many programs in college football can honestly boast? How many? You get what I'm saying?
In the recent memory, at least 2, Alabama and LSU.
Ohio State is close, right?
Okay, yeah.
I mean, they're right there. They're a good team.
Yeah.
But y'all get my point. Oklahoma has been synonymous with success. And so right now, things aren't great. Really, they need time. And even Lebby needs time. He came in to a situation where the only guy he knew was Dylan Gabriel, and things didn't go according to plan. But it's his first year calling the plays at OU. So I'm not saying that the guy is without question, or that anybody at Oklahoma is without question. Lord knows I questioned Ted Roof's play calling just a few weeks ago. Whenever y'all were in that 4th and 3 and he lined up the DB 7 yards off. And I'm sitting there like, well, that doesn't make any sense. But point being, he's still figuring out the limitations of what he can and cannot call based on the personnel y'all have. Right? Does that make sense? Like, maybe that 7 yards off would work in Clemson's system with the athletes he had. And now he's trying to figure out where he can get away with things, where he can't. And Smash, to your point, I agree with you. Right now, the tempo is perplexing, but I think that could also be indicative of, once again, Lebby not understanding what the personnel will allow him to do. Right? Like maybe he wants to go fast and the personnel doesn't allow him to go fast. And so now there's a cognitive dissonance, right? Where he wants to do something but isn't allowed to, and that creates an uncomfortable circumstance. And so that's why I said time is needed. Patience is needed. And I know that's not a popular take. I think it would be very similar if the tables were turned, guys, right? And I don't know. I just think time is needed.
No, time is needed. And you know what? For everybody that's saying fire Lebby, he won't be here next season. Like, what's going to happen next season when Oklahoma is 12-0? Lebby's got the best offense in the country. Like, are we going to have to pull these receipts and be like, do you still want to fire Lebby? Because that could be a possibility. You know, the thing is, and I think a lot of us forget this, again, a lot of this comes to personnel, even on the offensive side of the ball, not just the defensive side of the ball. As they get more time, and I expect this year to be a lot different because they don't just have to take guys out of the portal at best available. They can take guys that actually fit into what they want to do because they're not going to have as big of an exodus as they did last year. They're still going to have people leave. It just won't be as big of an exodus. And it's probably going to be a little more selective of who they want to leave.
The portal is a pendulum. It takes it. What does the portal want to do? The portal does what it wants. It's going to take. It's going to give. You just got to treat her kindly.
Matt, it's 100% on personnel, and here's why. The linebacker position, how often is Danny Stutzman and Deshaun White out there on the field? They're on the field way too much. There's no depth in that linebacker room, and that's a problem. And then the 3-3-5, it would work. It works in the Big 12, but you got to have the right personnel to run it. We don't have the right personnel to run it. But here's the thing. What's going to happen if Ashton Sanders and some of these guys come in, they look really good, they can help run the 3-3-5 next year. Now you have guys that are experienced that are staying, because we know Jonah Laulu's staying. Reggie Grimes, I think, is staying. Jalen Redmond might stay. So let's say next year you get some of these guys in here, a Derek LeBlanc, maybe a DJ Hicks, guys like that. Now all of a sudden you've got depth at that position. You have seniors that know how to run the 3-3-5 that can help teach and get the younger guys experienced in it as well. And then you're going to have more depth at the linebacker position. So now a 3-3-5 is a lot more manageable than what it has been this year. And the other thing is, too, I almost wonder how much Brent Venables is running a defense like this to test the team and to test some of these players to see what kind of drive they have in them, to see what they – because if you go watch, some of these players have been here for 5 years now, 5-6 years. So I think, Ty, do you agree that he might be running some of this to see what kind of drive some of these players has, to see if they are long-term pieces for this team?
Not really, because that's something that you should do in the offseason. You should have that figured out in the offseason.
But in the offseason, you can't run through a game scenario and put them down by 10
I know,
points
but you
see how they're going to react when they give up a big 40-yard play or whatever.
You're 100% right, and I started this out by saying you can't test everything in practice, but the thing is now you're gambling wins and losses on trying to figure out if you can do what. And look, at the end of the day, guys, a coach is a teacher. It is a teacher's job to put their student in an advantageous position to be successful. I do not believe Brent Venables would just be rolling out there, knowingly putting his guys in disadvantageous positions, because then that wouldn't be what a good teacher does.
I'll just put this out there right now. Carl, I know you comment on the stuff a lot. This is not a good comment here. Hicks is a generational type player at the defensive line. Like, when you look at his film and you look at the kind of athlete he is incredible, and he's a good teammate. You hear from a lot of people that play with him. A lot of people want to play with him. If he was that kind of guy, people would not want to be playing with him. So, you got anything else, Ty?
And Hicks is interesting, man. Super talented player. It's going to be just super interesting to see what his recruitment process looks like.
I think we'll know a lot more after the Under Armour All-American game.
Probably. Now, wait, which one is he playing in? Is he playing in the Under Armour game? Is he playing in the Army Bowl? Or is he playing in the All-American game?
I want to say it's the All-American game.
I'll have to check my notes.
Yeah.
That's gonna be interesting.
So I've got to listen, guys. I got a video coming out for OU recruiting tomorrow morning, so y'all can tune into that one. I'm not going to talk about that one too much because this isn't a recruiting. This is more to talk about how the Sooners got beat on a last-second field goal to Texas Tech. I hate taking the coin toss. I hate having to call it. I feel like you're never going to come out victorious when you have to call the coin toss.
I'm perplexed, man. Like, some of the things I just don't really get. And I'm probably about to actually rewatch the Oklahoma game right now, like right as we get off of this, because like I said, I was with Denzel, PJ. We were just chatting the whole time the football games were on. And we had 3 or 4 different football games because we had 2 TVs going, my laptop. PJ was on his phone. I was on my phone. Denzel was on his phone. All of us watching different games. So I want to go back and rewatch this Oklahoma game because I'm really trying to figure out offensively what's causing all of this. I might not be able to figure it out, but damn it, I'm going to try.
Let's see if we can get this to play real quick. See if we can look at it. See what everybody's talking about here.
To Reggie Pearson, the play he was able to make, staying home and seeing the quarterback trick play.
I swear it looks like it goes around the field goal post here. See, right there, it looks like...
Right here, I actually turned to Denzel and start talking and during the live game because I'm like, it's good.
It looks like the ball's going around the field goal post, though. See, it almost looks like it goes like over it, like around it a little bit.
It looked like it wanted to hook. Seeing the quarterback trick play.
Watch it again. It
I really can't.
Like it goes either up and around or just around it.
And it no good.
I'm surprised they didn't show more angles.
Do they have more angles of a field goal? Because I saw somebody
I
put
don't
on
know.
it. I think it was JP that said, "Are field goals even reviewable?"
They usually have a camera that sees like up.
So I guess
I
the question
guarantee
is,
he probably missed it, right? Like if the refs called it that he missed it, I have no doubt that he
well, and
missed it.
everybody behind the field goal was like rejoicing, and they wouldn't have been rejoicing if it was actually good.
Yeah.
So, but my question is though, if it is good, I mean, do they just come out and say they're sorry? You lost the game. Like, how do you correct something like that?
I mean, even if it is good, there's no guarantee that that translates into Oklahoma winning the game.
Yes, but it translates into Oklahoma at least having a potential shot at this because let's say Texas Tech still gets that field goal like they did, right? That goes into a double overtime.
It goes into a double overtime, but then we're having the conversation of in the first play of overtime, you put your quarterback out there to get reamed
That
by
was
the safety.
that was a terrible call. They should not have done that.
And now you bring him back in there the next time, and where did he get hit? His left shoulder. So I mean, yeah, you guys make that field goal. Let's say you do, and you trot DG back out there next time, and his shoulder is shot. So I mean, I don't know. I get trying to have a play call to create a spark, but man, he got killed on that shot. Whew.
Well, I'll leave this as my final takeaway for the night. We had CJ Colton on for an interview, and he's coming
Beast.
in, and I've got that coming out. But if he comes back for another year with him and Billy Bowman back there, OU secondary is in really good hands, even if we don't get Peyton Bowen. So CJ Colton is just that guy. So if y'all haven't already, go ahead, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. If you're an OU fan and you like OU content, keep an eye out for an OU recruiting update in the morning. If you like Alabama content, because I know Ty's here, I gave my thoughts on where Alabama's at and where I think they'll finish in the recruiting trail as well. So keep an eye out for that video. Ty, you want to let them know where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Around the Table Sports. I'm going to be up in the morning. I'm going to rewatch a lot of the games tonight. And I don't know whether it's 12 o'clock right now. I might record it at 3 or 4 this morning. I'll do my reaction series and give you 30 minutes of me delirious tired reacting to college football games. So you guys get a raw take from me. That's a lot of fun. So yeah, be on the lookout for that tomorrow morning.
Those are the best reaction videos. 3 a.m. exhaustion.
And you can tell half the time, like I look dead, and it's like, yeah, it'll be 5 o'clock in the morning, and I would have just gotten done rewatching all the games, haven't slept since Friday evening, and yeah, done.
Yeah, no, that's awful.
That's awesome. It's the best.
All right. Thank you all for tuning in. Sooner fans, be nice on Twitter. Don't get onto the players. The recruits are watching you. So
True. Hey, they are watching.
Yep.
They're watching. And I will say this, and I commented this on someone who commented on one of my videos. They're not just watching on Twitter, man. I can't tell you how many times a recruit or a recruit's family has commented on a video of mine. And I made sure I let some of the OU fans know when Evans flipped, I'd had a lot of OU fans, and hats off to y'all because I'm about to give y'all some praise. I had a lot of you OU fans on my channel saying good luck to the young man. That means something. I mean, he even if he doesn't come back, you think if a wide receiver watches that video and he's like, oh, this is a fan base that, hey, they're just gracious and they're supportive. That means something. And we even had Georgia fans commenting, being like, hey, respect for wishing well wishes.
Here's the deal, right? Anthony Evans, I think, did it the right way. And I know people will try to say, oh, well, he left us high and dry. No, he didn't.
He communicated with the staff.
He communicated with both staffs what was going on. He just didn't want to be a distraction to his own team during the playoffs time. Because remember, high school playoffs is going on right now.
Yeah.
So let's be honest. Everybody knew what was going on except us.
Yeah.
That's really about it.
That's recruiting. And guys, another thing before I get y'all, also be nice to like PD and Parker Thune, because they can only divulge the information that they're told. And you guys got to remember, very rarely is a recruit going to tell them 100% what they're thinking. They're going to give professional answers because they want to maintain professional relationships.
No,
They don't wanna
yes,
burn
and here's the other thing too. They can only divulge
what they can divulge.
what they can tell, because many times I've talked to recruits and they'll say, don't put this out on any of your videos. Don't put this out on Twitter.
Between
Right,
you and
because
me.
they're telling you something in confidentiality. Then the other problem is I've been on the receiving end, and I know Brandon Drum's been on the receiving end of this too many times too. They tell you one thing, but they're thinking the exact same thing. They tell everybody that.
Oh,
So-
I can't tell you how many times I've heard from somebody who I know they have good information. I'll hear from them one thing, and then I'll hear from another one of my people who I know has good information, and they're hearing the complete polar opposite. And the problem is everybody's right in what they're hearing. It's that you have 5 different stories being released. That's recruiting, and it's a wild game.
But here's the problem. If you're a recruit and you want to keep your recruitment locked up, you either talk to absolutely nobody, including your parents,
Or you're 100% open.
or you
100%
or you drive 10 different narratives so that nobody can really get on to really what you're thinking.
405 says we support Parker and Brandon up 100%. Yeah, y'all have great insiders.
You know what?
You'll have great insiders.
If you all really support Barker and Brandon,
They're great.
jump to Twitter right now and tag both of them and just say thank you. Don't give them anything else. Just go to Twitter and tweet out thank you, Parker and Brandon. Tag them in there. If you really support them, do that. So
yeah, guys,
show 'em some love.
Parker and Brandon, y'all have got great, and not just relegated to Parker and Brandon, the rivals crew, y'all have got great reporters doing great work for OU.
Yeah. No, I'm serious, guys. I'm watching Twitter. So y'all get on Twitter, y'all tag them, show them some love, say thank you for their work, especially right now. You guys don't realize how much time Brandon's probably having to miss.
Oh
with
my
his family and his
gosh.
kids. So just send them a shoot.
dude
thank
works
you
his
through
ass
Twitter
off.
on Twitter. Just tag them. It goes a long way. You'd be surprised. So, but on that note, we're gonna go ahead and let you guys go.